Is there a word for an object that is no longer kept for its original purpose but instead for sentimental value? The object in question would usually be no longer in use, or perhaps used extremely infrequently compared to when it was first brought. The piece should not be regarded as a waste of space, as the owner would view it with some sort of fondness due to the positive experiences associated with its past use, so words like piece of junk or clutter should be avoided. Redundant is an adjective, though I would prefer a noun, that might fit this purpose. However, it does not reference the fact that the object has been retained out of nostalgia, and also has negative connotations rather than positive. Memento or keepsake are similar words to what I am looking for, however these are kept to remind of a specific person or event and not to remind of the extended past history and actions linked to that specific object itself. An example might be a toy kept from the past or a laptop stored away after a new one has replaced it. I want to emphasize that in this case, the toy has not been retained because it reminds the owner of their childhood, and the laptop has not been conserved because it was given to the owner by someone close to them. They have been kept instead to prompt memories of the interactions that the owner, and usually, only the owner, has had with them. An example sentence would be something like, Alice tends to hang on to a lot of underscore, such as her PS3 from 10 years ago.
Keepsake. ~kēp-ssāk. You've already noted it in your question, but keepsake is actually a correct answer here. Matham is an interesting word, however nobody but Tolkien enthusiasts will know what it means. From Merriam-Webster, use in a sentence. Saved the tassel from her mortarboard as a keepsake of her high school graduation. Example from an online article, example from Merriam-Webster. Keeping baby clothes and mementos. Last year, Joanna created the cutest keepsakes for her kids, memory boxes for each child stored in clear fabric bins, filled with their baby items and a handwritten letter. Jessica Lee Mattern, Country Living, 10 of Chip and Joanna Gaines' sweetest family traditions you'll want to copy ASAP, July 9, 2018.
How about memorabilia? 1. Things that are remarkable and worthy of remembrance, a wealth of early railroad memorabilia. 2. Things that stir recollection or are valued or collected for their association with a particular field or interest, mementos. Baseball memorabilia. Merriam-Webster. 1. Treated as singular or plural, objects kept or collected because of their associations with memorable people or events. 60s memorabilia. Oxford Dictionaries.
Souvenir. Merriam-Webster, something that serves as a reminder. When I went to the Super Bowl, I kept my ticket stub as a souvenir. Kept their love letters as souvenirs of their courtship. Edited, to address a comment, an old laptop, assuming it's not just junk, as a souvenir of an earlier time. Especially if it serves no other purpose than to exemplify how things used to be and remind you of them. It's similar to keeping a typewriter or an 8-track tape.
Matham/methem/. A lovely, ancient, and eminently modern word for this is matham. The OED gives for the current sense of matham. A trinket, a piece of bric-a-brac. But you need to know more about it than just that, for there's more to it than just that. Its original sense from Old English is now obsolete. A precious thing, a treasure, a valuable gift. Obsolete. For its origin, OED notes that. Etymology, cognate with Old Saxon metham, masculine, precious thing, a treasure, Old Icelandic methmar, feminine plural, valuables, Gothic mathams, masculine, gift, ultimately less than the Indo-European base of Classical Latin mutare to exchange, see mutate v. The word was playfully revived in a slightly different sense, see sense 2, in the 20th. Sent. By J. R. Tolkien. Here's a Middle English citation. C 1275, A 1200, Lyman Brute, Calig, 1963, 896 Us the king and amp, al his gold, and amp, far mathams of his land. In other words, give us the king and all his gold, and the mathams of his land. They were after treasure. Tolkien's playful revival of the word in a slightly different sense appears first in the prologue to The Lord of the Rings, where he wrote, "At no time had hobbits of any kind been warlike, and they had never fought among themselves. In olden days they had, of course, been often obliged to fight to maintain themselves in a hard world, but in Bilbo's time it was very ancient history. The last battle, before this story opens, and indeed the only one that had ever been fought within the borders of the Shire, was beyond living memory, the Battle of Greenfields, SR 1147, in which Bandobras took rooted an invasion of orcs. Even the weathers had grown milder, and the wolves that had once come ravening out of the north in bitter white winters were now only a grandfather's tale. So, though there was still some store of weapons in the Shire, these were used mostly as trophies, hanging above hearths or on walls, or gathered into the museum at Michel Delving. The Matham House it was called, for anything that hobbits had no immediate use for, but were unwilling to throw away, they called a Matham. Their dwellings were apt to become rather crowded with Mathams, and many of the presents that passed from hand to hand were of that sort. And it has been used by other authors, in non-hobbity contexts, since then. For example, the OED provides, among others, a citation from Byte magazine. 1998 Byte January 123 1 A storage company where I keep a bunch of Mathams, stuff I can't quite bring myself to throw away. See also the LOTR wiki entry for this word, which begins with Matham was the hobbit term for anything which they had no use for but were unwilling to throw away. Their halls and houses usually were quite crowded with Mathams. Hobbits were very fond of giving Mathams to one another. On birthdays, it was tradition that the hobbit who had the birthday would give a gift to anyone who attended his party. This way Mathams traveled from hand to hand often around the whole Shire, sometimes finding their way back to the original owner. Weapons and other gear of war was usually looked upon as Mathams in the Shire, and usually they became trophies hanging over fireplaces or on walls.
A relic is a surviving memorial of something past, which seems just about perfect for your purpose. To be sure, the most common association is with the relics of saints, fragments of the true cross, or the bones of Saint Mark, but relics are not necessarily religious. Despite the similarity of spelling, relic and religion are derived from different Latin roots. Historical artifacts, outmoded ideas, and even retired persons are often called relics, so there's no reason your old laptop can't be one too. A few examples of this usage of relic. A burial, Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Today I had a burial of my dead. There was no shroud, no coffin, and no pall, no prayers were uttered and no tears were shed, I only turned a picture to the wall. A picture that had hung within my room for years and years, a relic of my youth. It kept the rose of love in constant bloom to see those eyes of earnestness and truth. The Third Etaja, author unknown, from Household Words, a weekly journal, Volume 1, edited by Charles Dickens. It so happened that, as I dived into one of my big trunks in sorting my clothes, I came upon a leather case that contained a daguerreotype, a relic of my youth. Matters of the Heart, Danielle Steele. I was thinking it might be nice to go to the Cape. I'd like you to see the house. It's very simple, but it's a relic of my childhood. That house means a lot to me.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.